Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I want to show you two ways that you can use compression when mixing. We're going to be talking about how you can use compression today, but before we dive in, if you are ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process as a whole and really start to hone your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio ready mixes without any more of the guesswork and any more of the hassle. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and take a look at some compression techniques. When it comes to mixing, generally there are two ways that I like to use compression. The first way that I like to use compression, or the first way that, generally you use compression, is just to level out a sound. So balancing volume across an audio track. We're going to look at a couple examples of each way here. So for our first example here, you pull in a compressor just to do what it's there for, right? A compressor is going to even out a sound. It's going to pull down the louder sections and pull up the quieter sections to give you a more balanced signal across the board. That's the job of a compressor, generally, right? There's other ways and other things you can use compression. We're going to talk about one more today, but that's our first one here, right? Just balancing the volume of a sound a little bit better so it doesn't jump out on one part and then disappear on others. We're going to take a look at this acoustic guitar here first for this first way here. So just balancing the sound or the volume of the sound a little bit better is the first way you can use compression here. So take a listen to this acoustic guitar and we'll jump into the compressor settings here on it. That's what our acoustic guitar mix is sounding like. Let me take off the compressor here, and I want you to listen to the same passage. Pay attention. You can see there's some parts here where he hits or strums the guitar a little bit harder. Pay attention to how those parts sound in comparison to these quieter parts here. You can hear there's those louder sections and then there's quieter sections. Inside a bigger mix like this, you can see we've got a pair of guitars, a lead guitar, a couple keyboards, full drum kit, bass guitar, as well as a bigger stack of vocals. If we have louder notes on the acoustic guitar and then it fades into the background for a quieter section, that will disappear inside of a bigger mix like this. So we pull in our compressor. I like using this FET comp or this 1176 style compressor on acoustic guitar. It's a nice way just to level out some of those peaks a little bit, and that's all we're going to do. So we're going to look at these bigger parts over here, these bigger peaks, and all I want to do is about 3 dB of compression. So I've got my attack set at, if I turn this on here, at about 0.57 milliseconds. So for this unit, it's on the slower side. It's still quite a fast attack, still under a millisecond, and then the release is as fast as possible on this unit, so 50 milliseconds. I want it to catch these transients, these peaks. That's why our attack is pretty fast with this unit. Now we're on the slower side because I don't want to completely crush the sound. And then our release is as fast as possible because I want the compressor to let go as fast as it possibly can of these peaks because I don't want to hold on. The guitar's strumming pretty fast, right? It's not a slower strum. It's not enough that we can pull the release back to, anywhere over 50 milliseconds here. 4-to-1 ratio, so as gentle as possible on this unit. 4-to-1 is still quite aggressive, but what it's going to do is it's going to pull these peaks down and help balance it a little bit better with the quieter sections of this acoustic. We're just pushing our input up to we're doing about 3 dB of compression on these bigger peaks here. So take a listen one more time here with the compressor in and keep your eye on the needle here as we get to these louder sections. You can see we're only compressing the louder sections. So we're pulling down those louder sections, those bigger peaks, to balance it a little bit better with these quieter sections, and it gives us a more even and balanced sound, or balanced acoustic guitar overall. Watch one more time here as I play this acoustic guitar. You can see we're only doing compression here, 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 and on these last couple notes here. Everywhere in between, these longer passages here, our compressor is not even moving. We're not going for vibe change or character change here, just a little bit of compression on these peaks to pull them back and sit them with the quieter sections of our acoustic guitar. It gives us a more balanced tone overall. Again, watch these bigger peaks. Watch how our needle's only moving there, and on these quieter sections, we're not doing anything with the compressor. Just the amount of compression that's needed on each of these sections. These peaks here, we're doing about 3 dB of compression, and then these bigger ones at the end, it jumps up to about 5 dB of compression, just to sit those in with the rest of the acoustic guitar. One more example of this first way here, so just using a compressor to balance volume across an audio track here. Same kind of deal here with our piano sound. You can see our piano sound's not too crazy here, so we're just doing about 3 dB of compression across the board here, just to make sure any of the louder hits, any of the bigger peaks sit in a little bit better. Let me zoom in here on our piano track. Just so some of these harder hits sit in a little better with the rest of the piano sound. I've got the piano soloed here. Just watch our compressor, same settings here. So fastest release, a slower release for this unit, we're at 0.55. If I can see, there's some lights in my eyes there. And then we're just pushing our input gain so we're getting about 3 dB compression on some of these harder hits here. Take a listen to our piano sound. You can see we're just attacking those bigger peaks, like this guy here, just those harder hits, just tucking them back into the piano track a little bit. And if you watch, it keeps our piano pretty even volume-wise throughout the passage. Not altering the tone, not changing the character, not imparting much character, although it is a vintage style compressor. We're not changing the tone of the instrument too much, just leveling in, tucking those peaks back into the track a little bit to get a more balanced sound overall. Now, number 2 way you can use a compressor is for tonal change. The second way I like to use compression is to impart extra character or change and shape the character of a sound. So the first way you can use a compressor that we talked about is to balance the sound, the volume of a sound overall, so just the job of a compressor in general. And then the second way you can use it is to change or impart any additional character to a sound. First thing we're going to look at here is our kick drum. Using the stock compressor here inside of Studio One, so you can change character and impart character with a compressor like this. With this one, we're going to be changing the character of the kick drum. So if we scroll up here to our kick drum, what we want to get from this compressor is an emphasis of the attack. We want to get a little bit of extra click out of our kick drum from this compressor. So we are going to squash this kick drum, about 8 dB of compression on this kick drum, which seems like a lot, but this is how we're going to change the character. We're going to get a little extra emphasis on the click of the top end of the kick drum. So let me solo our kick drum here. We'll start without the compressor, and then notice when I kick the compressor in, how we get a little bit more emphasis on that top end click and that top end attack on our kick drum here. We'll start without it in. Couple things we're getting from this compressor. It's tightening up our kick drum sound so it's not so loose or long sounding, shortens it up a little bit, gives it a tighter sound, gives it a snappier sound. I keep snapping. That's way too much snapping, but gives us a little extra kick in the top end there, right? We get some of that top end click, a little bit more emphasis on the attack of the drum. That's what we want to get from this compressor. So the way we're getting that with this unit is with a slower attack. Our attack is at 30 milliseconds here. That means when our kick drum hits, the compressor won't activate or react till 30 milliseconds after our initial transient. That leaves room for our initial transient and then initial attack to shine through before the compressor starts working, starts clamping down. And then we have our release set so it tightens up our kick drum. So it takes 120 milliseconds for our compressor to let go and then come back. And that's set to work in time with our kick drum. We don't want it to wait too long and still be holding on when our next kick hit happens. You want your compressor to let go before your next kick hit, but you want it to hold on long enough that it gives it a nice air and a nice breath to the unit. So our kick drum's going and your compressor's working right in time with it to help it breathe and sit inside the mix. So this compressor here is using our second way. We're imparting character and getting some extra character out of our sound. In this case, our kick drum, we're doing about 8.5 dB compression with a slower attack, slower release to emphasize the initial transient, the initial attack of our kick drum and tighten up the sound overall. One more example of the second way, so imparting character or emphasizing character of a sound, is with our vocal here. Now we're going to push this vintage style or 1176 FET style compressor and get some analog vibe, analog character from this compressor. So take a listen to our vocal here without the compressor in. And then I'm going to kick the compressor in, and I want you to notice how our vocal changes. Not just volume rise, of course, because we are getting a volume balance from this compressor. It's going to make sure our vocals up front and balanced volume-wise. But listen to how the character changes of the vocal. It's going to make it sound like he's going for it a little bit harder, give us a little bit of extra grit, and it's going to emphasize the vocalist's performance. So take a listen here.
One step, and it's much too far. I'll take 2 steps. We're way too close, but take 3 steps. And I'm into your arms. I'll do all it takes to get to your heart. One step, and it's much too far. I'll take 2 steps. We're way too close, but take 3 steps. And I'm into your arms. I'll do all it takes to get to your heart. One step, and I'm into your arms. I'll do, and I'm into your arms. And I'm into your arms. I'll do all it takes.
Right there on that line where he really pushes into the compressor here afterwards, but he's really going on this line here. It's a lot of volume, a lot of energy coming out on his vocal, and pushing that into a compressor like this helps to emphasize the character of his vocal, and we get a little extra character imparted from pushing into this vintage style compressor. Listen one more time, just this short little line here without and then with the compressor.
And I'm into your arms. I'll do all it takes to get to your heart. And I'm into your arms. I'll do all it takes to get to your heart.
It sounds a little bit more intense, has a little bit more character, a little extra edge to it. I like the way it feels like he's pushing harder into the microphone, pushing more air, pushing more energy. And in addition, of course, we're getting the volume balancing from the compressor overall. One more time on that final line, with and without the compression.
And I'm into your arms. I'll do all it takes to get to your heart. And I'm into your arms. I'll do all it takes to get to your heart.
So that's the second way you can use compression. A little bit of review here. The first way you can use compression, we talked about examples with our piano and with our acoustic guitar, just using a compressor, excuse me, for a little bit of volume balancing. Doing about 3 to 5 dB compression on just the peaks of our acoustic guitar here and just the harder hits of our piano. Just tucking those peaks back into the rest of the instrument, into the rest of the performance to give us a more balanced sound overall. The second way you can use compression is to add character or emphasize character of a sound. So with Our kick drum, we're using our compressor to emphasize the initial attack and the initial transient of our drum so it hits a little bit harder. And then on our vocal, we're using this vintage or FET style compressor. Oop, that's not the right plugin. This vintage or FET style compressor to impart some extra energy, some extra grit, just to help that edge come through on the vocal there. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.